The 1,000 solitary moons have crossed. The opening system hangs up and tells you that the martial soul hall will be gone in the future. What should Qianguyue do? For the sake of my own little head, then I have to apologize to others. P.S. Anti-Tang, at the beginning of the martial soul hall, there have been some changes in the character design. P.S. Single female lead, white-haired Imperial Sister Snow Emperor. Keywords of the novel. Douluo Ice Winged Angel without pop-ups, Douluo Ice Winged Angel TXT Complete Collection Download, Douluo Ice Winged Angel Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. 1,000 Solitary Moons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1,000 Solitary Moons Douluo Continent. The main city of the Martial Soul Hall is called the Martial Soul City. The Martial Soul City is built around a hill and is located at the junction of two empires, both of which have no ownership over it. Within the Martial Soul City, there are the highest symbols of the Martial Soul Hall, including the Papal Hall, Douluo Hall, and Elder Hall. At the same time, this is also a city built by the Martial Soul Hall with its own funding. The position of the Pope in the Hall of Martial Souls has always been controlled by the 1,000 houses in the Hall of Martial Souls. The General Pope is held by 1,000 family members. Of course, there are also people from other families who hold the position of Pope, but this situation is rare. 1,000 families, 1,000 solitary moons. Yes, as everyone imagines, this is a traveler. Qianguyue is also speechless about her journey, knowing that she is only waiting for the green light at the crossroads. This was a large truck rushing over, and when Qianguyue saw this situation, she quickly backed away. But who knows, are you interested in me? With so many people not colliding, just TMD caught me alone, right? Okay, you're amazing, you're noble. I'll accept my fate now. Afterwards, Qianguyue was sent over. However, compared to other colleagues, I am a bit better on my side. It's not about wasting my martial soul at the beginning. Qianguyue's martial soul belongs to the variation of the 6-winged angel, which has changed from a fire attribute to an ice attribute. It can be said that I have stood at the peak of the martial soul world. Can divine-level martial souls also mutate? Maybe the system did some small action in it, right? The same standard configuration system for travelers is also available on Qianguyue. However, after giving Qianguyue a beginner's gift package, the system went silent. To be honest, if it weren't for still being able to see her own panel, Qianguyue would have felt that the system had been taken offline and not herself. After learning about this world, Qianguyue also became aware of the world she was in. Well, a world of fantasy sewers that has been widely commented upon by netizens. That's right, it's you. Love Douluo, oh no mistake, it's the Douluo continent with the Tang great god king. Qianguyue hasn't read the original work, but she can't resist the advanced internet, so she can still browse videos. There are still many famous sayings about this continent, and Qianguyue knows a little bit. Especially those few sentences left a deep impression on Qianguyue. Resurrect. My beloved. Watch my mother entangle. You have a way to take death. Originally, Qianguyue felt that she was backing away from the Qianjia family, living a miserable life and waiting to die. She would marry a few more daughters-in-law and have a few more chubby kids, and her life would be over. Unexpectedly, after the system was taken offline, it mentioned to itself that the ultimate martial soul hall in this world was destroyed. Puff, this sentence was directly given to Qianguyue. Oh my, how scary is it? You should know that this world is different from before. With a different face, you can still live. But not here. The martial souls here are everyone's ID cards, and they are the kind that cannot be forged. As soon as you open your martial soul, most people will know that you are a member of your family. After all, there are only a few famous martial souls on the mainland, and there are no doors to cheat. What should we do? After finally reviving my life, I am still far away from the various overtime and pancakes of my past life. Qianguyue doesn't want the consequences of her next beheading in the future. 2-star. So in order to save her head, Qianguyue can be said to be reading books crazily before awakening her martial soul, and practicing crazily after awakening her martial soul. Divine level martial soul, 6 Winged Ice Angel, innate soul power of level 20, this is a divine existence. God knows, when I heard the news of Qianguyue, the old man Qiandao Liu who was still worshipping in the temple was so excited. Although the martial soul has mutated, it's okay. This is still a member of my family. With the assurance of Qiandao Liu, the leader of the martial soul hall, Qianguyue can fully mobilize the resources of the entire martial soul hall to cultivate. In this way, under the accumulation of resources in the martial soul hall and not wanting to be beheaded in the future, Qianguyue's daily life is extremely disciplined. Except for necessary activities to participate in, Qianguyue's time is mostly used for cultivation and reading. As the saying goes, everyone is forced out. Under the extreme self-discipline of Qianguyue, she reached the state of being titled Douluo at the age of 20. But Qianguyue still thinks it's not enough. After spending so many years here in the temple of worship, he knew that only when he reached the level of 90 title Douluo, would it be the beginning of true genius competition. So, Qianguyue worked even harder, just to reach the realm of worshipping Qiandao flow as soon as possible, and then she can find a way to become a god. After becoming a god, everything will be easy to say. But what? The system did not tell Qianguyue that the real test would only begin when she became a god. Qianguyue thought that as long as she became a god, her head could be saved. Oh, I just don't know if in the future, Qianguyue will collapse in anger and cry loudly in her heart when she finds out about this matter. How pitiful. But what? With the increase of Qianguyue's strength, he is no longer simply pursuing speed, but slowing down and constantly polishing his soul power. Although his soul power is already pure, Qianguyue is still patiently polishing it over and over again. At the same time, while constantly polishing her soul power, Qianguyue is also figuring out how to release her own inner alchemy from her body. After all, most of the people who read some cultivation novels in their past lives had their own inner alchemy. But the people here don't seem to be there. This is when Qianguyue asked Lao Qian before, and Lao Qian said he had never heard of this thing at all. Perhaps this is not the case in this world. And Qianguyue herself doesn't know how to do it. I can only slowly try again and again before the system wakes up. If it's successful, that's good. If it's not successful, we'll have to wait for the system. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Death of the Pope. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The death of the Pope in the year 10086 of the Douluo calendar. Several shocking events occurred on the mainland. Firstly, Pope Qianxuan of the Martial Soul Hall passed away, and Emperor Haotian Tang broke through the title of Douluo, becoming the youngest Douluo on the mainland. Secondly, after the death of the Pope, the Martial Soul Hall dispatched an angel army to attack the Haotian Sect. The contemporary leader of the Haotian Sect, Tang, was killed, and the sect suffered heavy casualties. Only his son Tang Xiao and 100 people survived, leaving only 2 or 3 big cats in the entire Haotian sect. It was also announced that Tang Hao was no longer a disciple of the Haotian sect. The Haotian sect is affiliated with the 4 Great Gates, including the Pozi clan, the Minji clan, and the Yuji clan. Under the leadership of their clan leader, they surrendered to the Martial Soul Hall. The Li clan split, and the clan leader Titan led some people to flee. Thirdly, Qianguyue from the Qian family was appointed as the new pope of the Martial Soul Hall. Offering Hall. Qianguyue, sitting on the stone bed, opened her eyes and a hint of red light flashed through her pale purple eyes. Still not working. Qianguyue frowned as she felt the situation inside her body. Where exactly is the problem? Ever since Qianguyue discovered that there was no such thing as an inner pill in this world, she has been studying it alone, but without success. Is the method wrong? Is it another reason? Thinking of this, Qianguyue couldn't help but look up at the sky. As a genius of the Qianjia family, Qianguyue has access to all the confidential documents of the Martial Soul Hall. Compared to atheism in previous lives, this world has gods. Not to mention anything else, the prototype of my own six-winged ice angel is the six-winged angel, which is also the deity worshipped in the entire Martial Soul Hall of the Qianjia family. Although I have seen it in ancient books, gods are not allowed to interfere in the lower realm. But for this sentence, Qianguyue just smiled. You should know that before the gods, they were humans. After becoming a deity, humans' bad roots cannot be eliminated. What's missing? The so-called rules of non-interference in the lower bound are used to constrain the weak, while the strong make rules, but it does not mean that they will be bound by their own rules. If the so-called gods' interests in the lower world are harmed, Qianguyue can restrain them if she doesn't believe this sentence. Forget it, let's go out for a walk. Qianguyue shook her head. I don't know when this system will wake up. It's been 20 years already, okay _ 20 whole years. Do you know how I've been living these 20 years? Waiter, have a pot of tea, then a plate of edamame, said Qianguyue, sitting at the stall. Okay. Please wait a moment, my guest. Ah, have you heard about it? A passerby on the next table spoke mysteriously. What did you hear? The group of people at the table also looked over curiously. I heard that Tang Hao from Haotian Sect has broken through into a title Douluo, said passerby Jiao. What? Title Douluo? It's really fake, the few people exclaimed in surprise. Come, brother, tell me more. Passerby B quickly poured a glass of wine for passerby A. And passersby A also humbly took over. Regarding the influential figures on the mainland, although many may not have seen them before, they are more or less familiar with them. In addition, the Martial Soul Hall is located in the center of the mainland, and there are also many caravans coming and going here every day. There is still a dedicated area in the peripheral area of Wuhuan City that provides services for caravans. There is also a title Douluo hidden in the dark here. Tang Hao. When Qianguyue, who was still drinking tea on the table next to her, heard this, her eyes lit up. He also knows about this contemporary Haotian Sect twin star. He is the most outstanding genius of Haotian Sect besides Tang Chen, and some even say that Tang Hao's achievements in the future are not inferior to his grandfather Tang Chen. Oh, this is already breaking through the ban on Douluo. I remember, it seems that Tang Hao is only in his 40s this year. Oh my god, my title is Douluo. Someone exclaimed in surprise. Tang Hao seems to be only in his 40s this year, someone exclaimed in surprise. This is simply the youngest title Douluo in the mainland. Yes, the youngest title Douluo in the mainland. The youngest title Douluo. Upon hearing this, Qianguyue sneered and realized that Tang Hao was probably in his 434 years old. At this age, the title cultivation is indeed the youngest title Douluo on the mainland. But if we take him to the Martial Soul Hall, not to mention Qianguyue, even Bibidong is already reaching the level of 90, and he is much younger than Tang Hao. This is really infuriating compared to others. I am still a little soul sect now. This person's tone slowly became envious and jealous, but he dared not hate. After all, Tang Hao is backed by the world's first sect, Haotian Sect. They are just a group of ordinary soul masters. By the way, I heard that half a year ago, the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall went out with several titled elders for some unknown reason. I don't know what he went for. Has Chihiro gone out? How many elders are still with you? Is there anything significant about this? After all, both the Pope and the elders have been deployed. But Qianguyue said I don't know about this. At that time, I seem to have gone to seclusion. At this moment, a woman in red walked into the door. The man present's gaze was immediately drawn away. After all, among mainland soul masters, there are already fewer female soul masters and even fewer strong ones. But no one rushed over to chat up. Where is this Martial Soul City? If someone causes trouble here, the law enforcement officers of the Martial Soul Hall will make you realize what cruelty is. After Yan Ying came in and looked around for a week, he came directly to Qianguyue and sat down. Is it quite leisurely? Yan Ying sat down and picked up a cup, poured a cup of tea, and took a sip. What's going on? Looking at the flame eagle standing in front of her, Qianguyue was momentarily stunned, but immediately realized that something was wrong. In addition, I just heard about the Pope going out and Tang Hao breaking through the title Douluo. Can't it be these two things? Although I am from 1,000 families, the old man usually doesn't come to find me when he has nothing to do, but if he comes to find me, it's a big deal. And Yan Ying is the person who came to deliver the message. Pope Chihiro has passed away due to illness. The voice of the flame eagle rang in Chihiro's ear. She was also surprised when she was rumored by Qiandao Liu. After all, the current Pope Chihiro is still only in his 50s and cannot have died of illness. Qianguyue's eyebrows furrowed silently, but soon recovered. Looking at the lively conversation around him, it was obvious that Yan Ying had used his soul power to transmit messages to him. This is a sound transmission method that consumes soul power, which is very practical, but its drawbacks are also obvious. The distance between the two must not be far, and if there is a strong person present, they can intercept information. Let's go. Go find the old man. Qianguyue had already guessed something in her heart. Get up, place a silver soul coin on the table, and the two of them leave here to walk towards the worship hall. Along the way, Yan Ying also briefly explained the situation to Qianguyue. Roughly half a year ago, shortly after Qianguyue closed down, Qiang Sunji received a report that a transformed 100,000-year-old soul beast had been discovered in the human world. Upon hearing this news, Chihiro quickly dispatched the ghosts of the Elder Hall to investigate the matter. No matter whether this news is true or false, the soul beast of 100,000 years. That will definitely drop soul bones. You should know that there are many soul bones inside the entire Martial Soul Hall, but most of them are low level. The older the soul bones, the fewer they will be. Previously, someone on the mainland made a ranking of the favorite items of soul masters, with soul bones and 100,000-year soul rings ranking first. A 100,000-year soul ring can endow soul masters with 2 soul skills. During battles, you will inexplicably have one more soul skill than your opponent, which is crucial. When it comes to soul bones, unlike soul rings, soul bones can be peeled off. Soul bones that fall off someone else's body can be used by others, which means you have a soul bone. When you age, the soul bone will automatically peel off your body, and your descendants can still use it. The final news is that there is indeed a transformed 100,000-year-old soul beast next to Tang Hao of Haotian Sect, so the happy Chihiro immediately thought of taking action. Even if he couldn't use it, wouldn't he still have an extra soul bone? You can also enrich the treasure trove of the Martial Soul Hall. I originally wanted to call Qianguyue together, but Qianguyue had already closed down at that time. There's no other way. Qianshu and Ji went alone. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Conversation with Qiandao Liu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Conversation with Qiandao Liu. The two of them walked non-stop to the temple of worship. After entering the sacrificial hall, Qianguyue saw a gloomy expression on Qiandao Liu's face. As a contemporary offering of the Martial Soul Hall, the strength of Qiandao Liu can be said to have reached the pinnacle of this world. The only ones that can be compared to it are Tang Chen from the Haotian Sect back then and Poseidon from the Sea God Island. All three of them are extreme fighters of the same era. Among them, Qiandao Liu is invincible for the sky, Tang Chen's earth, and Poseidon's ocean. After seeing the arrival of Qianguyue and the other two, Qiandao Liu's face softened a bit and nodded at Qianguyue. Xiaoxue. You go out to play with your flame eagle auntie first, and Grandpa will talk to your big brother for a while. Qiandao Liu smiled at the blonde little loli holding a black bear beside him. What happened to my unlucky son? Carrying so many people without success and being killed back has made my good granddaughter so sad now. Well, big brother, Qianguyue doesn't have a father anymore. When Xiaoyulai Qianrengshu saw Qianguyue, she ran and lay in Qianguyue's arms, crying 555. Listening to Xiaoyulai's crying, Qianguyue patted Qianrengshu's back and comforted her. All right, where are Xiaoxue and big brother? Big brother will accompany Xiaoxue. Qianguyue didn't even coax the children. Really? Qianrengshu looked up at Qianguyue. Of course it's true. Qianguyue pinched Qianrengshu's baby face. Big brother won't leave Xiaoxue. Really? Really, so, how about we pull the hook? Qianrengshu stopped crying and spoke weakly. Okay, pull the hook, Qianguyue smiled. Come on, hang the hook and don't change for 100 years. Whoever changes will be the little dog, chuckled Qianguyue. Okay. Qianrengshu reached out her hand and hung her hook with Qianguyue. Alright, let's go out and play with Aunt Yan Ing for a while first. Big brother will cook delicious food for you tonight. Qianguyue rubbed Qianrengshu's head. Well, the feel is quite good. Come, Xiaoxue, sister will take you to play, said Yan Ing on the side. She knew that the next conversation between the two was not suitable for Qianrengshu to listen to. Goodbye grandpa, goodbye brother. Qianrengshu bowed to Qiandao Liu and said goodbye. As for why Qianrengshu called her Qianguyue, it's because in Qianguyue's past life, she wanted a little sister, but she didn't. After Qianrengshu was born, Qianguyue came to see her and often played with her afterwards. As for Lao Qian himself, he has no objection to this situation. After all, both of them are from the Qianjia family, and at that time, Qianguyue was already a titled Douluo. In the eyes of Lao Qian, if his granddaughter could open the divine examination, then Qianguyue would be the grand offering of the martial soul hall in the future. If the divine examination was not opened, then one pope and one grand offering would also be possible for the two of them. Xiaoxue had a great time playing. Qiandao Liu smiled and said to his obedient granddaughter. After Yan Ing left with Qianrengshu, their smiles instantly disappeared. Kid, do you know the reason why I called you? Qiandao Liu said to Qianguyue. My son Qianshuan's illness is gone, and the rest of the Qianjia generation is not doing much either. The only outstanding young generation is Qianguyue and granddaughter Qianrengshu. But the granddaughter is only 9 years old now, and besides, after the granddaughter awakens her martial soul, Qiandao Liu plans to let Qianrengshu inherit the throne of her own angel god in the future. Pick and choose, and only Qianguyue is suitable. As for Saint Bibidong, don't think that the old man doesn't know who killed his son. If it weren't for the loss of his granddaughter's father and not even his mother, Qiandao Liu would have designated to send Bibidong, a fool, to accompany his son. It's okay if I didn't kill you. I still want the position of pope, so I want to go. Qianguyue nodded, and on the way here, Yan Ing had already explained the situation roughly to Qianguyue. Pope Qiang Sunji led people to besiege Tang Hao and the 100,000-year soul beast, but Tang Hao was severely injured when he was sacrificed by the 100,000-year soul beast and broke through. After returning, he passed away last night. Don't worry, this time the old man called himself over to deal with the Haotian sect. Although there was an agreement between the old man and Tang Chen that as long as he was still alive, the martial soul hall would not allow him to step onto the Haotian sect. But now the son of the old man has been killed by the people of your Haotian sect. If that's the case, the old man will foolishly abide by the agreement. Then Qianguyue will have to think about how to drive the old man down and take charge of the martial soul hall on her own. I plan to dispatch the angel corps to attack Haotian sect, and you are the overall leader. Qiandao Liu expressed his thoughts in his heart. The Angel Corps is a corps composed of thousands of family members and other flying soul masters. It is directly enshrined in the Martial Soul Hall, and the lowest level cultivators within the entire corps are also soul saints. Among them, the corps leader is a super Douluo at level 96, and there are 2 deputy corps leaders at level 93. It can be said that the Angel Corps is the most elite force in the entire Martial Soul Hall. Oh, the Angel Corps has all been deployed. It seems that the old man is really angry. Okay, is it disabled? Or is it, said Qianguyue, who has not only been buried in cultivation for years. There is still practical combat available. Give him Tang Chen a face, let's beat him up. Qiandao Liu finally estimated his old friend's face and saved a hand. If it were for another family, all the ashes would be raised for you. But what a pity. Qiandao Liu didn't know it was in the original work because he left a hand behind, and in the end, his martial soul palace was completely destroyed, and his obedient granddaughter couldn't break through level 89 in her lifetime. If you know, Qiandao Liu will definitely be the first to kill Haotian Sect, not leaving any behind, and killing them all for you. No problem, Qianguyue nodded, indicating that there was no problem. She had lived in this world for so many years. He still understands some truths. You can do good, but you cannot be a good person. This world doesn't need kind people. Sometimes, a fist is the best voice. By the way, I'm quite curious, said Qianguyue. Even if it's Tang Hao who broke through the title Douluo, and their explosive ring secret technique, how can he beat an old title Douluo and 2 title Douluo with martial soul fusion skills? How can his health be better if he still fights for 3 days and 3 nights? Qianguyue is very puzzled. They also have research on the secret technique of Haotian Sect's ring explosion in the Martial Soul Hall. This is a powerful secret technique that explodes its own soul ring through special channels to gain a large amount of soul power in a brief burst. This secret technique may seem strong to Qianguyue, but its drawbacks are also significant. He has extremely high requirements for users, and without a certain talent, he is just killing himself. Even with so many people from Haotian Sect, only Tang Chen, the founder, and his grandson Tang Hao, as well as the future Tang Great God King, can master this secret technique. Even if you briefly unleash a strength that can withstand level 95, you must fight quickly and make quick decisions after exploding the ring, otherwise your body will be the first to collapse. What kind of genius are you, Tang Hao? What was your situation during this 3-day and 3-night battle? Are you even stronger than your grandfather Tang Chen? This. Qiandao Liu frowned. Qianguyue didn't really notice this problem, not to mention it. For Haotian Sect's explosive ring, Tang Chen, his old rival, also knows it. I have also understood that he is sometimes strong, but even Tang Chen can't hold on for long. Why did Tang Hao persist for so long? Old man, do you think it's up there? Qianguyue looked up at the sky. Qiandao Liu was frightened by the idea of Qianguyue. But upon reflection, it seems that besides the so-called gods, there are no such magical means on the mainland anymore. When I think of a deity in the dark of my own martial soul hall as a rival, Qiandao Liu is not good as a whole. As a great offering of angel gods, Qiandao Liu knows that even the lowest level deity cannot be countered by ordinary people. In addition, over the past few hundred years, neither he nor the other worshippers of the Qianjia family have received the will of angels, and they also have doubts, but they cannot be certain. But listen to what Qianguyue said. I don't know. Qiandao Liu forced a smile. He is also aware of the rule that the divine realm cannot interfere with the lower realm. Qianguyue saw him like this and then repaired his sword. Don't forget, those gods were all humans before they became gods. People can do anything for their own benefit. If there is 100% profit, capitalists will take risks. If there is a profit of 200%, capitalists will defy the law. If there is a profit of 300%, then capitalists will trample on everything in the world. For gods, faith in the human world is what they most want. And their martial soul hall has been occupying the faith of this continent for countless years, so it is normal for some to be envious. However, there is a rule that gods cannot intervene in the lower world. The best way is to support a power among people, and then this power will eliminate the previous big power. In the end, the gods behind them will gain the faith of the entire continent, and they will only invest a small amount of divine power. This is a win-win situation. Thinking about it this way, it seems like there is some explanation as to why Tang Hao exploded and killed the entire martial soul hall before. Maybe this so-called Haotian sect is the object supported by this deity. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Worship Conference. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4 Worship Conference. If that's the case, this Haotian sect really can't be too ruthless. It would be troublesome if it caught the gaze of that deity. Originally, Qianguyue was still thinking that I would leave some elderly, weak, sick, and disabled for you Haotian sect, and it would be better to deal with young and middle-aged people. But now thinking about it, if this were to directly deal with the young and middle-aged people of Haotian sect, it might be noticed. Although the current martial soul hall may seem strong, it is relative to the human realm and is nothing in the eyes of the gods. Everyone should know that using magic to defeat magic is not about using gods to defeat gods. You still need to pay attention before there are no gods in the martial soul hall. If this really happened on a whim and caused Haotian sect to behave like that deity might have some hidden hand. But at that time, I am in the bright and the enemy is in the dark, which is not conducive to our side. It's not like saying that to let Haotian sect go. Qianguyue felt that as long as Haotian sect was still there, that deity wouldn't have any intention. After saying that, could he still keep an eye on Haotian sect? But this time we need to think carefully about how to suppress the Haotian sect without attracting the attention of the gods. Forget it, let's not talk about this issue for now. Qiandao Liu thought for a moment and said, let's go. Let's hold a worship meeting first, and the deployment of troops will be approved at the meeting. After Qiandao Liu finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the outside. Although the Angel Corps is directly listening to him, it would be better to hold a meeting for such a major event. After returning this time, you should prepare to take over the Pope. Okay, no problem. Offering Hall, Meeting Room. In the deepest part of the conference room, there is a 3-meter-high angel statue here, and below is a long conference table, which is the highest meeting place in the usual martial soul hall today. All the level 90 elders who are still in the martial soul city have arrived. Both sides of the long table are filled with people. On the left are the 7 major offerings of the temple, while on the right are the people from the Presbyterian Hall and the Papal Hall. The original position was supposed to be held by the Pope, but the unlucky child Chihiro no longer exists. At this time, Chihiro himself is sitting on top, while Chihiro is sitting in the original position. Unlike those who worship the temple, the people in the Papal Hall and the Elder Hall all look at the thousand lonely moon with a puzzled expression. Not to mention that they haven't seen Qianguyue, they haven't even heard of it. And it seems that this person is still very young. You should know that everyone who can sit here is without exception a titled Douluo, which is the young man with a titled Douluo. Everyone is here now, said Qiandao Liu, glancing at the people inside the room. So let's officially start this meeting. This meeting is about how to handle the matter of Emperor Haotian. I believe you have already understood the news. Everyone present also nodded, knowing the previous news. There's no way. This news is really explosive. In the many years since the establishment of the Martial Soul Hall, this is still the first pope to die in the hands of mainland powers, not in the hands of evil soul masters. It should be noted that most of the popes in the Martial Soul Hall either died of old age or died in wars against evil soul masters. The worshippers here also know why Chihiro died. But to put it bluntly, that matter is a black spot in their Martial Soul Hall, a scandal that worships their thousands of families, and is not suitable for exposure. They can all understand the pain of losing their children in old age. After all, the three greatest sorrows of life are losing their father in childhood, losing their wife in middle age, and losing their children in old age. Lao Qian is just such a son. Originally, he wanted Qian Xuanji to take over his position as the Grand Preceptor, but now he's doing well. He's gone. No one can bear this matter, but Bibidong's side is not suitable for action, so it's up to Haotian Sect. They have to pay for Qinshuan's death. For Haotian Sect, they don't have much burden, but what is truly terrifying is Tang Chen. The temperament of the two worshipped golden crocodiles is the most fiery, and besides, Qianshuanji was also the one he watched grow up with. The great offering, I've seen that Haotian Sect is not satisfied, so I'll fuck them. The other 5 worshippers also nodded, and their families are all generational families of the martial soul hall. Even the 2 worshipped families have been present since the time of the angel ancestral god. You should know that in the martial soul hall, besides the 1,000 families, the loyalty of the golden crocodile clan is high. After all, in the history of the martial soul hall, the 2 worshipped families have also served several popes. The other 5 worshippers have also been loyal to the martial soul hall for a long time. De Fun, we understand your thoughts. We still have to suppress Haotian Sect, but if Tang Chen comes back. San Fun Shenglong Douluo spoke up. I understand what you mean, Qiandao Liu said. Tang Chen's point is indeed a problem. But it's not a big problem. Tang Chen has been missing for so many years, maybe he has already left. If it were really there wouldn't be no news for many years. If it were really there, he wouldn't have watched the 2 families go to this point. Don't worry, he won't come back, said Qiandao Liu. Back in the day, he was only narrowly defeated in one move. It doesn't mean he has 1,000 ways to do it, but if Tang Chen really gets angry, it doesn't necessarily mean you Tang Chen can beat me. There's no way, Tang Chen is just a reckless man, fighting won't be fatal. But he has 1,000 different ways. He still has such a large family business as the martial soul hall, and he also serves the angel god. There's nothing I can do, the old lady cares too much about things. He is not like Tang Chen, who fights without risking his life. Having said that, Qianguyue has also grown up now. Even if he is no longer here, Qianguyue can still bless the martial soul hall for 100 years. If that's the case, then we have no objection, the several worshippers nodded, as long as it wasn't for Tang Chen's words. Okay, surprisingly, 6 offerings, 7 offerings. You go there once. Yes, a grand offering. Qianguyue, you lead the angel corps to break through from the front, Qiandao Liu said to Qianguyue beside him. Surname Qian. This is 1,000 families. Yes, a great offering, said Qianguyue. My martial soul hall has been silent for too long, so long that the world has forgotten the glory of my martial soul hall. Guyu, this time you are leading the team to unleash the momentum of our martial soul hall. And those who are dreaming, we need to make them sober and sober. Alright, let's go down and prepare. Tomorrow, the troops will be sent to Haotian Sect. Yes. The speakers of the entire meeting were actually a few big shots, just a few worshippers from the Hall of Worship. As for the people from the Elders' Hall and the Pope's Hall, they came to witness and also met the Qianguyue family and the Pope after the martial soul hall. With the support of countless followers, even now that Shigeyu has taken the position of Pope, she does not dare to oppose it, just like the Pope Bibidong in the original work. Isn't that the same as sitting on it after the default of Qiandao Flow? Otherwise, even if Bibidong holds the position of outstanding Pope, she wouldn't be able to sit as a person with a foreign surname. And the temple of worship is led by Qiandao Liu. As long as he speaks, others will not object at all. After all, Qiandao Liu's strength speaks for itself. In the martial soul hall, the apostolic hall is the final authority to issue orders. If there are any documents to be issued by the papal hall, it is generally necessary to notify the apostolic hall first, and the apostolic hall also has the power to recall the pope. In the later stage of the original work, after Jean Crocodile brought people to the front line, he directly dismissed the Pope Bibidong. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Bibidong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Bibidong. On the evening of the end of the meeting. In a small courtyard within the martial Soul City, Bibidong stood in a light purple camisole nightgown. She also knew about the resolution of the Temple of Worship. After all, the Martial Soul Hall had already disseminated this news this afternoon. Qiandao Liu only limited her life freedom, but she, as a former saint, still knows the general news. However, the Martial Soul Hall was only emphasizing its intention to send troops to suppress the Haotian sect, and did not say when to go. I played a hand at word games. Alas, all I said was that I would send troops, but you just don't know what I'm going to do. Just play. After all, only the group of worshippers in the temple know about Qianxuan's illness, and others are unaware of it. After all, this is a scandal of the Qian family, and that old thing from Qiandao Liu will not promote it to the outside world. However, another person from 1,000 families appeared at the meeting this time. 1,000 solitary moons. It is said that this is a family with innate soul power that can be compared to their own daughter. I estimate that he will become the new pope of the Martial Soul Temple after this incident. It is said that he had been practicing all along before, except for the family members of the Qianjia family who knew about it, that is, the people who worshipped the temple knew about it. Others are unaware of this person. And this person is sitting in the position of Qiandao Liu before the meeting, which means that the lowest level is a super Douluo at level 96. This is the 1,000 family. The lowest achievement is Soul Saint, and now the highest cultivation in the 1,000 schools is the 1,000 paths flow in the Hall of Worship, the extreme Douluo at level 99. In addition, with the divine level martial soul of the 6-winged angel and the year-round worship of the angel god, 1,000 paths flow can use some divine power. If we really want to take action, it's not what people on the mainland think about losing Tang Chen's move. That is to say, this is a person who is even better than Qiandao Liu. In the future, the lowest level is that of Qiandao Liu, who can even reach the level of their ancestral god. It should be noted that Qianguyue is young and not as old as her. Not bad, it is a family with gods. Born to start higher than others. Think of her as Bibidong. At the age of 6, she awakens her martial soul, the top-level Spider Emperor martial soul in twin martial souls, with innate full soul power. Being left by Qianxuan Ji to learn since childhood, with various resources available, can be said to have left most people behind. If nothing unexpected happens, even if Bibidong cannot inherit the position of the Pope in the future, there is no problem for her to enter the Temple of Worship. But when Bibidong was 16 years old, he met someone. The son of a blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family leader. That is to say, Yushaojiang Nudashi, the publishers of the future famous theory, 10 core competition theories of soul masters. An excellent start, the son of the top 3 sect leaders, can be said to have naturally stood at a high level. As long as the martial soul awakens and the innate soul power reaches level 8 or 9, the future life will be worry-free. This is the strength of the previous 3 sections. In fact, most of the resources on the mainland are controlled by powerful forces such as the Martial Soul Hall, the upper 3 schools, the lower 4 schools, the 2 empires, and the families with Soul Douluo. If ordinary people want to rise completely, they must join these forces. However, these big families are all exclusive. Even if they join, then you are also an outsider disciple and cannot enter the core area for a lifetime. Of course, if you have outstanding talents, it is usually through marriage that you attract talented soul masters with external surnames. Surprisingly, as the son of the sect leader, the awakened martial soul is not the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex martial soul, but a pig that only knows how to fart, and its soul power is only half level. In the family, if you want to stand out, your talent and strength are the most important. Those with good talent and strong strength can obtain more resources, while others will gradually be marginalized. As the son of the sect leader, he only has half a level of soul power, and his martial soul is not just a blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, but a pig that only knows how to fart. Suddenly, Udashi received ridicule from his family and even became a laughing stock in the Soul Master world. Having been mocking in the family since childhood, Udashi eventually ran away from home and arrived at the Martial Soul Hall. In the end, he met Bibidong, who was still a saint. Finally, Udashi decided to study the theory under the persuasion of Bibidong. Surprisingly, there is no talent in Soul Masters, so let's try theoretical research. Bibidong's words were like a beam of light illuminating Udashi's grey heart. In the following days, the two of them often talked about the issues between martial souls together. Slowly, Bibidong was absorbed by the young man, and in the end, he even had the idea of eloping with him. And finally, the boy ran away, while he was left here and gave birth to a daughter he despised. Originally, Bibidong thought that when he sat down as the Pope, it would be time for him to slowly seek revenge against the Martial Soul Hall and the Thousand Families. However, the appearance of Qianguyue at this time crushed Bibidong's thoughts to death. Bibidong knows about killing Qianguyue, and that old guy from Qiandao Liu knows about it. A knock on the door rang out. Bibidong furrowed his brows, wondering why it was too late and who would be responsible for it. However, Bibidong first returned to his room and put on a coat, then opened the door. Saint. Elder Chrysanthemum. Elder Ghost. Bibidong stared at the two people outside the door for a moment. Why are these two people here? Two of you, please come in. Bibidong leaned over and let the two elders in. After all, these two people helped themselves a lot back then. Why did you two come to find me? Bibidong poured a cup of tea for them. The two exchanged a glance, but in the end, Chrysanthemum Douluo spoke up. It's like this, today's meeting has already passed the resolution to launch an attack on Haotian Sect in 3 days, said Ju Douluo slowly. In this list of personnel, you also need to go, Saint. I'm going too. Bibidong was taken aback. I am now under house arrest, why do I have to go by myself? Can't it be through this action that we secretly deal with ourselves? It's not surprising, Bibidong would think so, after all, Qiandao Liu's son died in his own hands. Qiandao Liu couldn't possibly deal with himself inside the Martial Soul Hall. With this mission, let him die inexplicably outside. Is it about to end for oneself? I haven't avenged the Qian family yet, and haven't seen Xiao Gang again. The Chrysanthemum ghost couple also noticed something was wrong with Bibidong and quickly spoke up, Saint, this time I suggest you go to Qianguyue. 1,000 solitary moons. That 1,000 family members. Bibidong's eyes widened and he didn't react for a moment. After all, I killed Qianguyue myself. See Bibidong's confusion. Saint, that person said, as a disciple of the Pope, you are more on the front line than Bidong in this battle. Speaking of which, Bibidong also understood. If you don't go by yourself, there will be a big problem inside the Martial Soul Hall. Even in the entire Soul Master world, her reputation as Bibidong was completely ruined. You should know that respecting teachers and valuing morality are still highly valued in mainland China. If Bibidong doesn't respond this time, then there's a problem. That's it. I know now, Bibidong nodded. In that case, we'll go and prepare. Okay, I'll send you two off. Bibidong stood up to bid farewell to the two chrysanthemum ghosts. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Haotianzong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Haotianzong, the mountains in the western part of the mainland. There is only one big city here, Haotian City. This is a city that the Emperor of the Heavenly Dou Empire gave to Haotian Emperor after Tang made a name for it on the mainland, in order to curry favor with him. He even changed the name in the end. In the western part of the city, there are the densest mountains on the continent. And the residence of Emperor Haotian is also located on these mountains, with huge iron chains connecting each peak. They also know about the situation where the Martial Soul Palace will send troops, but they don't know the specific time. The Martial Soul Hall attaches great importance to this action, except for dispatching 2 worshippers from the Hall of Worship, as well as the 98th level Super Douluo, Qianguyue. The Martial Soul Hall also notified several Martial Soul sub-halls in cities near Haotian Sect to gather and prepare to participate in the campaign against Haotian Sect. Even the 2 worshippers have already set off. The content of this meeting, Qiandao Liu has also given a dead order. After leaving the door, no discussion is allowed. What should we do? If someone dares to leak it in advance, then don't blame him for being ruthless. It should be noted that Qiandao Liu had previously served as the ruling elder of the Martial Soul Hall. This position was specifically designed to deal with hostile forces in the Martial Soul Hall, but he also had the power to investigate and deal with internal personnel in the Martial Soul Hall. Of course, it doesn't mean that Emperor Haotian hasn't reacted yet after learning about what Tang Hao did. Tang Hao's father was immediately startled when he learned about what his youngest son had done. What did you do? The Pope of the Martial Soul Hall has been killed by you. After the initial shock, Tang Zhen went to notify his son Tang Xiao and the elder to come for a meeting, while summoning the disciples of the Haotian sect who were outside to hurry back. The current Haotian sect has officially risen since his father Tang Chen. In addition to his father Tang Chen's reputation, the disciples of Haotian sect are usually extremely arrogant. But so arrogant, it's still the first one. He doesn't think Qiandao Liu will abide by the agreement he made with his father Tang Chen not to come to his Haotian sect. If Qiandao Liu really doesn't come, Tang Zhen will look down on you without saying anything else. This is the son of 1,000 streams, my own son. It's not something like an adopted son. If they don't come in person, it will already save face for you, Tang Chen. In the hall of Haotian sect, Tang Zhen sat in the main seat, surrounded by his son Tang Xiao and the elder. Several elders were also present, all of whom were powerful figures of Haotian sect. Let's talk about it all. What should we do? Tang Zhen said with a headache. I'm really impressed with my little son. How did you mess with my father? After pretending to be forced, I found a deep mountain in old forest to hide. Now, it's good that the Martial Soul Hall has to find my own sect. Fortunately, Tang Zhen, the current leader of Haotian sect, has a soul power of 96 levels. His son Tang Xiao has also broken through the title Douluo. The eldest elder is a title Douluo of 96 levels. In addition, the second elder and the third elder are also title Douluo. In addition, Tang Hao, the youngest son who is wandering outside, has 6 title Douluo in the first sect of Haotian sect. In addition, Haotian sect, along with its affiliated single attribute 4 sects, has a total of over 3,000 soul masters. You should know that this number is not necessarily the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family plus the 7 treasures glass sect. Just talking about one case with 6 titles completely sets the other 2 companies apart. Even so, Tang Zhen still knew how big the gap was between his own family and the Martial Soul Hall. This time, the Martial Soul Hall will not give up easily. It's not enough for his Haotian sect to not bleed. Maybe his Haotian sect will be destroyed this time. Tang Zhen also knew that the Martial Soul Hall would not destroy the Haotian sect until his father Tang Chen had disappeared. They dare not gamble. What if Tang Chen is still alive? The Martial Soul Hall is afraid of his father Tang Chen, and the current Haotian sect is nothing in the eyes of Qiandao Liu. Everyone in the hall, take a look at me, take a look at you. They are all from the same era as Tang Zhen or Tang Xiao. When they first heard this news, they were also surprised, but after being surprised, they looked panicked. After all, their old patriarch Tang Chen is not here now, and facing the Martial Soul Hall, they are really empty. Besides, everyone is usually a bit arrogant, but why are you still the first one to be arrogant? Everyone is an adult now, knowing what to do and what not to do. How kind of you, Tang Hao. You killed the Pope directly. Isn't that equivalent to handing the knife to the Martial Soul Hall and asking them to come and chop your neck? Compared to the elders, Tang Zhao's face, as the elder brother of Tang Hao, became faster. First, he heard his younger brother and siblings being chased by the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall, then he relaxed when he heard his younger brother was free, then he felt heartbroken when his younger siblings offered sacrifices to him, then he heard the shock of the Pope's death, and then he became worried. Tang Xiao is different from Tang Hao. In Tang Hao's original work, he is a person who only cares about himself and does not care about his sect. In the original work, there was such a big incident that even the Martial Soul Hall was shut down. You are so lucky that you numb yourself with alcohol every day. What is the result? My own father was infuriated to death, and the disciples of the sect suffered heavy casualties. He was forced by the Martial Soul Hall to disappear from the world. If it weren't for a cheating son, he might never have gone back to his sect in his lifetime. Tang Xiao is a bit okay, but he is the ultimate Voldemort, and his own level 96 Super Douluo is infuriated by his own elders. Perhaps it was also Tang Zhao's shame towards the elders. After all, several of their relatives died in that battle. To be honest, even if Tang Xiao wanted to speak up for his younger brother at this time, he couldn't help it. Tang Xiao and Tang Hao are different. Although Tang Zhao's cultivation talent is not as good as Tang Hao's, Tang Zhao's heart is more delicate than Tang Hao's. At least Tang Xiao now knows that some things are immovable. This is not another time, it's a matter of our own face. The head and chief of every family are the face of the same family. You Tang Hao threw someone's face on the ground and then stomped on it with your feet. A normal person wouldn't tolerate this. It's uncertain that the person brought over this time is Qiandao Liu. You should know that this is a person from the same era as your grandfather. Like my grandfather, they are both extreme Douluo. As the descendant of the world's first sect, Tang Xiao knows that he is granted the title of Douluo realm, and can still cultivate between level 91 and level 95. But after reaching level 96, it's not just about cultivating soul power, but also about understanding one's own martial soul. Moreover, there is a significant difference in soul power between each level after level 96. For example, the soul power of a level 96 title Douluo is even more than the total soul power between level 91 and level 95. 1,000 streams of 90.9 levels, if they really come, there's nothing else. Just the pressure of soul power can crush them to death. Father, let's seek help from the other two sections. Tang Xiao said. This is the only way, and he hopes that the Martial Soul Hall will retreat under the pressure of the three schools. Otherwise, relying solely on his own family will not be able to survive this disaster. Seeking help. Tang Zhen frowned, thinking that this was indeed a good idea. It's just a matter of spending some time with oneself in the end, it's better than killing one's own family. Yeah. Master, let's seek help, someone said. Yes, our three previous sects are united in spirit. When Tang Zhen heard this sentence, his eyes lit up. It was shouted by Ning Fengji, the leader of the Seven Treasures Glass sect. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Three Ancestors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Three Ancestors. If it had been before, Tang Zhen still had a headache about how to pull down the other two sections. Anyway, I am not confident that my family can get through this difficult time. This sentence, the three previous sects are united in their spirit, directly reminded him. With this sentence, even if Tang Zhen cannot bring over the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, at least he can bring over the Seven Treasures Glass sect. You should know that this sentence can be said by Ning Fengji a few years ago, and all major forces on the mainland know that it was you who said it. Now my Haotian sect has something to do, you Seven Treasures and Glass sect can't just watch it. You should know that soul masters in mainland China value their reputation very much, let alone such a large sect. If your 7 treasures glass sect doesn't come, how can you continue to live on the mainland in the future? So regardless of the final outcome, your 7 treasures glass sect must come to an end. Of course, let's just be clear about it ourselves. There's no need to say it out loud, after all, everyone still needs face. Okay, in just one sentence, we can bring the 7 treasures glass sect over. Tang smiled, his sadness disappearing from his face. The people in the hall also nodded in agreement. However, it's not enough. We also need to bring down the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, Tang Zhen said with a change in tone. Even bring the 2 empires over. In this way, they have 9 title Douluo on their side. There is also the martial soul fusion technique of the royal family in the Star Luo Empire. This is the gathering of the most important forces on the mainland. It can definitely make the martial soul hall dare not act recklessly. Master, I heard that the deposed leader of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, seems to have had that relationship with the Saint Bibidong of the martial soul hall before. Well, that's true. Tang Zhen was delighted. I didn't expect that the son of that old dragon's martial soul cultivation talent to be trash, but I didn't expect that he was completely related to the Saint Bibidong. Indeed, one cannot judge by appearance. Can we use this reason to bring the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family over? Tang Zhen was unsure. Don't worry. Master, the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family is not a fool either. This time, it can be said that we have gathered our last 3 sects and 2 empires together. This is the only opportunity to challenge the martial soul hall. That Jade Patriarch will not give up this opportunity. If he doesn't come this time, after this incident, his blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family will definitely be excluded by our Haotian sect, 7 treasures glass sect, and 2 empires. But at that time, he would have to confront the pressure from the martial soul hall alone. After all, what his son did made the martial soul hall lose face once. After the incident, didn't the martial soul hall bring him to settle the accounts? This news was heard by him when he went to the martial soul hall before. After gaining some weight in his heart, Tang Zhen nodded in agreement. After all, the previous incident also caused significant fluctuations in the Soul Master realm, but for some reason, the martial soul hall did not put pressure on the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family in the end. But not exerting pressure does not mean that the martial soul hall has forgotten about this matter. I couldn't figure out what to say, so I dug up this matter. With his family's title Douluo, he can't resist the martial soul hall. Okay, I'll personally write the letter and immediately arrange for someone to deliver it, Tang Zhen said and immediately took out a pen and paper to start writing. Alright, let's all go down. The whole sect is on guard these days, don't miss any corner. Ladies and gentlemen, this concerns the survival and victory of our Haotian sect. Then our Haotian sect can take it to the next level. If we lose, then there will be nothing left. Do you all understand? Understood. Looking at the few people burning with fighting spirit in front of him, Tang Zhen's unease also relaxed in his heart. Go ahead. When all the people in the hall had left, Tang Zhen looked out at the sky with a heavy heart. Father, are you still worried? Tang Xiao looked at his father beside him. Looking at my eldest son, although his cultivation talent is not as good as his younger son, he is at least much more sensible than his younger son. If it weren't for his poor cultivation talent, the position of this sect leader would also be that of his eldest son. After all, Tang Zhen knew that Tang Hao's temperament was not suitable for being a sect leader. Shower. Father, I'm here. You go and secretly transfer a group of people. If we survive this disaster and then let them come back, at least we can leave some people behind for the inheritance of our Haotian sect. Tang Zhen patted Tang Xiao's shoulder and said. Father, this. Tang Xiao was frightened by his father's decision. How could his father lack confidence? Moreover, my father has practiced the secret technique of exploding rings in his own Haotian sect. You know, this is the 8th title Douluo. Do the Martial Soul Hall really dare to kill these people? Your grandfather once told me something, which is that there is a hidden worship hall in the Martial Soul Hall, Tang Zhen slowly spoke up. Offering. Tang Xiao looked at Tang Zhen in confusion, as it was the first time he had heard the name. Yes, offering. According to your grandfather, in the Martial Soul Hall, as long as your soul power reaches level 96 of the Super Douluo cultivation, you can enter the offering hall and become a worshipper. And Qiandao Flow is the grand offering of the hall of worship. And according to my guess, there are at least 5 worshippers in the temple, or even more. If the Martial Soul Hall comes to offer sacrifices to the hall and everyone is mobilized, then we have no chance of winning at all, you know. Tang Xiao was stunned by his father's words for a moment. He had already known that there was a big gap between his own family and the Martial Soul Hall, but before, he only felt that the only difference between the two sides was the number of Douluo strong masters and the number of soul masters. But today his father told him how powerful the true power of the Martial Soul Palace is. Not to mention anything else, as long as the offering hall of the Martial Soul Hall is mobilized, they don't need to fight anymore. The lowest level is the offering hall of level 96, and the highest level is level 99. What are they using to block, to get their heads? Looking at his son's shocked expression, Tang Zhen smiled. When he heard the news, he also looked like this. I can't believe it. Go ahead, arrange for someone to go. The faster we go, the better. If we fail, then don't show up in front of the world. Father, why didn't you just say it? Tang Xiao couldn't understand. Why didn't you just say it? If it had just been said, then everyone would have lost confidence. In that case, at least we can leave some people behind and not exterminate the door, understand? Moreover, we Haotian sect must have someone come out to bear the anger of the Martial Soul Hall. Tang Zhen looked up at the sky. I don't know if there will be a chance to see this blue sky again in the future. But isn't it that my father has 2 other families and 2 major empires? Tang Xiao couldn't understand, after all, the influence of their 3 previous sects on the mainland was still significant. He, Xiaoer, Tang Zhen smiled and patted Tang Xiao's shoulder, saying earnestly. Remember, in this world, you can only rely on yourself and your family. Others, no matter how well they say, may not necessarily help you when danger finally comes. Go, get ready. Tang Zhen said as he looked at Tang Xiao still pondering. I don't know how many people are leaving this world this time. They don't know when the people from the Martial Soul Hall will call, it could be today, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. But what can be certain is that regardless of the outcome, Haotian sect is really facing a great crisis this time. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The 3 ancestors of the upper 3 schools together. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The 3 ancestors of the upper 3 schools together. Qibao City, this is the residence of Qianguyue sect. In the center of the entire residence, there is a huge pagoda standing there. The sole master of the 7 treasures glass pagoda lives there. The entire 7 treasures city is inhabited by people from the 7 treasures glass sect. Of course, due to the fragility of the body of the sole master of the 7 treasures glass pagoda, there are usually strong attacks near the residence of the sole master of the 7 treasures glass pagoda, controlling the residence of the sole master of the 7 treasures glass pagoda. Of course, the stronger your strength, the closer your place of residence will be to the central area of the city. At this time, inside the 7 treasures hall, as the leader of the sect, Ning Fengji is still here to receive messengers from the Haotian sect. After Tang Zhen finished writing the letter, his disciples immediately rushed to deliver it. After reading the letter, Ning Fengji's eyebrows furrowed slightly. The envoy will go down and rest first. Ning will consider it carefully, Ning Fengji said with a polite and easy-going smile on his face. Subsequently, the messenger of Haotian sect was taken down to rest. After the messenger leaves the hall, The smile on Ning Fengji's face disappeared and he looked at the letter in his hand. Ning Fengji felt a sudden headache. He had heard about the previous incident, but it was between the Martial Soul Hall and the Haotian Sect, and had nothing to do with his 7 treasures and glass sect, so he didn't care anymore. Until it was reported in the Martial Soul Hall that the Pope had passed away, and the culprit was Tang Hao from the Haotian Sect, Ning Fengji was completely stunned. Do you still have people from such a pit father and pit sect? How insightful. After hearing about this matter, Ning Fengji was certain that the Martial Soul Hall would not give up easily, and even his 7 treasures glass sect might be involved. Sword uncle, bone uncle, come out and take a look. Ning Fengji shouted towards the screen behind him. Quickly, the 2 people walked out from behind. A person was dressed in a spotless snow-white robe, with white beard and hair. A head of silver long hair was neatly combed behind his back, with an ancient and simple appearance. His face was as delicate as a baby's, and his expression was very indifferent. His eyes seemed to be unable to see anything around him, but he stood quietly without speaking. But he just stood there and still gave people a feeling of heaven, earth, and all things, being exclusive to oneself. The figure of another withered old man walking beside him was astonishing. He is not the kind of muscular and extremely muscular, but his entire body skeleton is surprisingly large. The clothes seem to be completely supported by bones, with dry muscles and skin, and sunken eye sockets. If seen at night, it looks like a huge skull. A few sparse white hairs on the scalp make one as ugly as they are. These 2 people are the protectors of the 7 treasures glass sect. Douluo the former is the sword Douluo, the martial soul 7-kill sword, and now has a soul power of 95 levels. The name of sword Dao Qinshin is still very well known on the mainland. The latter is bone Douluo, and the martial soul is bone, mainly for defense against deceit. The soul power of bone Douluo is slightly lower than that of sword Douluo, and now it has a soul power of 93 levels. The reason why the 7 treasures glass sect can firmly occupy the position of the 3 sect is because of the existence of these 2 individuals. Taking the letter handed over by Ning Fengji, the 2 of them silently read it. For a moment, the hall fell silent. Oh, it seems that there are still reasonable people in Haotian sect. Gu Douluo's hoarse voice rang out in the hall. For the people of Haotian sect, Gu Douluo has always felt that they are just a group of reckless men who only know how to move forward in times of trouble. But this time's intention has slightly changed Gu Douluo's perspective. Of course, it's just a little bit they all know about what happened on the mainland before this. The genius soul master of Ni Haotian sect severely injured the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall. Not long ago, the Pope died of his serious injury. You should know that this happened, but it's like these 2 forces are about to start fighting. Fengji, what do you think? The reason why Haotian sect came is actually very simple. It's just that his family can't withstand the pressure of the Martial Soul Hall, and he asked his 7 treasures glass sect to share the burden. But at this moment, they chose to stand opposite the Martial Soul Hall. After the Martial Soul Hall was cleaned up, their 7 treasures glass sect also felt uncomfortable. You should know that compared to the other 2 families, there was no conflict between the 7 treasures glass sect and the Martial Soul Hall. It's not surprising that one of the other 2 families killed the Pope, and the other, even worse, abducted the saint who was hard trained by them. To be honest, Ning Fengji doesn't want to go through this muddy water. After all, if one doesn't work out, it's all over. It's not possible not to go either. After all, the previous 3 sects were united, and this sentence was spoken by myself. If I don't go, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? How can his 7 treasures glass sect continue to wander in the Soul Master realm after this? Oh, everyone knows that the leader of your 7 treasures glass sect is a person full of nonsense. You should know that at this time, people place great importance on personal reputation, especially in various major sectors. Go, no matter what, we will go. For the sake of his reputation as the 7 treasures glass sect, no matter what. He is going all the way. Otherwise, his 7 treasures glass sect won't be wandering in the Soul Master realm anymore. Even if this is the opposite of pushing his 7 treasures glass sect towards the martial soul hall, he still wants to go. Moreover, Ning Feng has received the letter here, so the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family should also have received the letter. This time, let Uncle Gu go with me. Ning Fengji pondered for a moment. The two of Qianguyue are different in their strengths. Qiandao Liu has the ultimate attacking power, while Douluo Liu is famous for his defensive and spatial abilities. In theory, if you go with the sword Douluo, at least their attack will be much stronger. However, Ning Fengji does not want to offend the martial soul hall for no reason. Bringing the bone Douluo is more to express his position to the martial soul hall. What would Haotian Sect think? Then it doesn't matter to me. Anyway, since I went, it's not like I broke the contract. As long as I'm not embarrassed, then it's someone else who's embarrassed. Ning Fengji knows that the grand offering of the martial soul hall is still alive. If there were thousands of people going, it wouldn't be useful if there were too many of them. Okay, that's it then. Douluo shrugged nonchalantly and said. As for sword Douluo, he is still closing his eyes and recuperating on the side. Subsequently, Douluo set off with Ning Fengji and headed straight towards the direction of Haotian Sect. On the other side of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, the head of the family, Qianguyue, also received envoys from the Haotian Sect. However, in this matter, there are 2 different voices within the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family. The head of the family, Qianguyue, felt that this was an opportunity to attack the martial soul hall and advocated going to the Haotian Sect. But Yulua Mian thinks it's better not to go through this muddy water. After all, everyone knows the power of the martial soul hall. However, Qianguyue believes that this is an opportunity for the 3 upper sects to strengthen friendly exchanges. He believes that as long as the crisis of the Haotian Sect passes, the relationship between the 3 upper sects will also usher in a sweet period. However, Yulua Mian believes that the martial soul hall can dominate the mainland for so long, and its heritage is definitely much stronger than their previous 3 sections. If they go rashly, it may cause losses to the family. But only with the strength of Soul Douluo, Yuluomian cannot stop Qianguye's decision as a title Douluo. In the end, on this matter, Qiangue ruled out the crowd and directly agreed to Haotian Sect's request for assistance. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Not breaking the Haotian Sect, oath not to turn back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Not breaking the Haotian Sect, oath not to turn back martial soul hall square. The team for this campaign against Haotian Sect has also been determined. The members of the Angel Corps, who hold the power in the hands of the 1,000 Masters, have the lowest cultivation level and are all composed of flying Soul Masters. In addition to the Angel Corps, a Soul Master Corps has also been dispatched from the Martial Soul Hall to participate in this battle. This time, the Martial Soul Hall dispatched the Qianjun Douluo and the Demon Subduing Douluo, which were enshrined in the hall. In addition, there are Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo from the Pope's Palace, Demon Bear Sting Blood, Snake Spear, Wild Rhinoceros, Ghost Leopard, Spirit Wan, Flame Eagle from the Elder's Palace, as well as Qianguyue and Bibidong. This time, a total of 13 titled Douluo were dispatched from the Martial Soul Hall. On the other hand, on the side of Haotian Sect, besides Tang Hao who was still wandering outside, there were also 5 titled Douluo. Even with the power of the other 2 major sects, there were only 7 titled Douluo. The strongest one among them is only Tang Zhen's level 96 cultivation, which is nothing compared to a level 98,000 solitary moon and 2 level 96 offerings in the Martial Soul Hall. The reason why the Martial Soul Hall has received so many titles is mainly because since the incident with the former Pope, some people on the mainland feel that the Martial Soul Hall is not as good as before, and some have drifted away. The deployment of so many people this time is not only for the Haotian Sect, but also for other major forces on the mainland to see the heritage of the Martial Soul Hall. This time, the statement that Qianguyue wants to make the three previous sects share the same spirit has become a joke. He didn't believe it anymore. After seeing the lineup of the Martial Soul Hall, the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, and the two empires dared not speak up. In the morning, the sunlight shone on the face of the six-winged angel statue on the square. Make it appear very mysterious. There are dense figures standing on the square. These are all soul masters, and the lowest cultivation level is the Soul King. Even there are 4 titled Douluo. In addition to the titled Douluo standing on the platform, this time the Martial Soul Hall has gathered 17 titled Douluo at once. This is the essence of the Martial Soul Hall, which is not comparable to other major families and sects on the mainland. The reason why the Martial Soul Hall can firmly stand on the mainland is because of its powerful soul master power. Qianguyue accompanied by the Flame Eagle to the square. Looking at the thousands of soul masters gathered in the square, Qianguyue walked forward and stood in front of everyone, clenching her right hand and pounding her chest, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, our Martial Soul Hall has been silent for too long, so long that the world can no longer remember the radiance of our Martial Soul Hall, nor the angel ancestor of our Martial Soul Hall. This is not nonsense, after all, in the original work, even the top 3 sects may not know about the angel god in the Martial Soul Hall, and that Dashi was also found out with the help of Bibidong. Over the past few decades, the 2 generations of Haotian from Haotian Sect have stepped on the head of our Martial Soul Hall to fulfill their reputation as Haotian, the first sect in the world, and the majestic Haotian Sect in Jiaojiao War Soul Hammer. In the original work, this was formed during the later period of the Tang dynasty's great god king. From his grandfather Tang Chen, to his father Tang Hao, and to himself, all 3 of them stepped on the angelic martial soul of the Martial Soul Hall. This is truly a masterpiece. Generations of Haotian hammers, generations of beating the Pope. Not long ago, Tang Hao of Haotian Sect used sinister and despicable means to kill Pope Qianguyue of our Martial Soul Hall. At the same time, within the past 6 months, some branches of our Martial Soul Hall on the mainland have also been destroyed, and no one inside has survived. Qianguyue changed the way Qianguyue died, to Tang Hao using cunning and despicable methods. Otherwise, if it were the same as before, his Martial Soul Hall would still be shameless, and his Qianjia family would still be shameless. At the same time, there is a talk about destroying the sub-hall of Tang Hao. After all, everyone's family and friends are working in different sub-halls, so it's uncertain when they will be attacked. In this way, it can stimulate everyone's hatred towards Haotian Sect. Besides, it's true that Tang Hao destroyed the sub-hall of the Martial Soul Hall. You can investigate it yourself and find out. Perhaps by saying so, the momentum on the square has grown at a visible speed to the naked eye. The most reassuring thing for everyone who works hard outside is their family. Although their Martial Soul Hall family has great achievements, they cannot prevent Tang Hao from spreading throughout the entire continent. It is uncertain that one's family and friends will be present in the next destroyed palace. Sure enough, Tang Hao and even the entire Haotian Sect are a calamity on the mainland. Not to mention anything else, Haotian Sect must pay a price this time. However, Tang Hao has already hidden in the deep mountains and forests. If he wants to find it, it will not be easy. So if Tang Hao offends you, let your father and your Emperor Haotian repay him. After all, if the son doesn't teach, it's the father's fault. Jia. Are Tang Zhen ready to welcome this grand gift? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the shame of my Martial Soul Hall, as well as the shame of my Qianguyue and the entire Qianjia. Qianguyue said, the glory of the Martial Soul Temple created by Angel Ancestor cannot be forgotten or humiliated by me, nor can it be forgotten or humiliated by all of us. Today, I want you to step onto the Haotian Sect with me. Today, I want you to wash the Haotian Sect with blood and use the blood of the Haotian Sect to pay tribute to the deacons of the Martial Soul Hall who died in Tang Hao's hands. We will use the head of Haotian Sect and the blood of Haotian Sect to recast the glory of my Martial Soul Hall, to tell the people on the mainland that even though my martial soul hall is not as good as before, it is still more than enough to crush you. The current martial soul hall is a long time away from the era of the angel ancestral god. Nowadays, the common people in mainland China only know about the existence of the martial soul hall. Although the martial soul hall is good, the angel ancestral god seems to have been forgotten by people. Except for the personnel in the martial soul hall who believe in angel gods, those outside are even unaware of the existence of angel gods. You should know that the martial soul hall was originally established by the angel god. In addition to suppressing evil soul masters, there is also a responsibility to promote the angel god on the mainland. Now, except for the martial soul hall, it is no longer heard outside the mainland. However, by taking advantage of this opportunity, we can further promote the angel god. And it can strike down those malicious guys, promote a wave of our own ancestral gods, and most importantly, extort a sum of money from those dishonest guys. No matter how you think, it's not a loss. If you don't break the Haotian sect, swear not to turn around, Qianguyue shouted with her right arm raised high. If you don't break the Haotian sect, swear not to turn around. The soul masters present all raised their arms and shouted. Great, let's go, Qianguyue smiled as she watched the scene. Subsequently, by activating the formation, a huge light gate appeared, and Qianguyue was the first to enter. This was left by the angel ancestor in the past, mainly used to suppress evil soul masters in various places and quickly provide support and rescue. The following few sentences were modified by the author himself after reading the words of General Zhu Di, the great general of the northern expedition in the Ming dynasty. Those who are interested can take a look. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Gathering with Haotian Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Gathering with Haotian Sect. After Qianguyue was the first to enter the light gate, followed closely by the flame eagle and the two worshippers in the temple, followed by the Pope's temple and the Elder's temple, and finally the Angel Corps and Soul Master Corps. Offering Hall. Grandpa, where are you going, big brother? Qian Renxue, holding the black bear, looked at the crowd leaving with a puzzled expression. Hee, your big brother is going to do something big, said Qiandao Liu with a smile. A major event that can shock the mainland. Just now, Qianguyue's speech was also heard by Qiandao Liu. In addition to concealing Qinshuan's illness, he also threw the blame on Haotian Sect and Tang Hao. It can be said that he did a good job. Otherwise, my son from Qiandao Liu was hit by your grandson Tang Chen, causing him to be half paralyzed. If this matter were to be revealed, what would be the face of our Qianjia family? Anyway, there are only a few people who know the truth. The people in the martial soul hall may have said it, and the only one who knows is Tang Hao. He is now wanted by the martial soul hall, with a bounty of up to 1 million gold soul coins. I can't believe Tang Chen, although my son is not very good. But at least now there are still people in my martial soul hall who can lift the main beam. As long as my granddaughter inherits the throne, then my martial soul hall can truly unify the continent. This was also my own son's wish back then. Fortunately, my granddaughter can complete this task now. My son will surely be happy if he finds out below. The Haotian Sect on the other side. Since deciding to support Haotian Sect, Douluo has been running over with Ningfengji. As for the disciples, they didn't bring anything. After all, there is still a constant distance between the two places. What if you are attacked by other hostile forces on the road? Besides, it's useless to have too many people coming to Haotian Sect this time. The competition between high-level teams is really about high-end combat power. Even if you have more low-level combat power, it's useless. High-end combat power is the key. As soon as Douluo arrived at Haotian Sect with Ningfengji, he received a warm welcome from the sect leader Tang Zhen. After all, although the Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda has significant flaws in its martial soul, it cannot even break through level 80, and its lifetime achievement is only level 79. But you can't hold on to someone else's auxiliary ability, that's just a lever. The default amplification effect of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda is 10%. For each additional soul ring, an additional attribute can be increased, and it will also increase the attribute amplification effect of all previous soul rings by an additional 10%. The amplification of the 7 Treasure Glass Pagoda can ignore the foundation, and the amplitude of the amplification is fixed regardless of the difference in strength between the amplification object and the owner of the 7 Treasure Glass Pagoda's martial soul. However, although the auxiliary effect of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda is impressive, its soul power consumption is much greater than other auxiliary martial souls. In the face of this problem, the ancestors of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda also developed a secret method. The reason why the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda has always maintained the title of the first auxiliary martial soul is because of this secret technique called distraction control. There are 5 levels of distraction control, namely the heart of the 3 orifices, the heart of the 4 orifices, the heart of the 5 orifices, the heart of the 6 orifices, and the heart of the 7 orifices. Each level represents the ability to simultaneously control the number of soul skills and the number of times they are released. Ning Fengji's distraction control has reached the realm of exquisite 7 orifices and hearts, allowing him to simultaneously manipulate 7 soul skills to assist 7 targets and control his various amplifications like his arms and fingers. Moreover, the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda, as a martial soul, has a unique feature of being able to appreciate treasures. The early 7 Treasures Glass sect quickly accumulated a large amount of wealth with this characteristic. When it comes to the wealthiest power on the mainland, the 7 Treasures Glass sect ranks first. After generations of accumulation, the financial strength of the 7 Treasures Glass sect is not weaker than that of the empire. After all, the empire still has to spend money on various facilities, which is a huge expense. Even the martial soul hall may not necessarily have the 7 Treasures Glass sect's wealth. After all, there are sub-halls on the entire continent, and the annual expenses are astronomical. No matter what the reason is. Tang Zhen's initiative is good, after all, they came together to help you resist the martial soul hall and share the pressure. You should know that there is no substantial conflict between the 7 Treasures Glass sect and the martial soul hall. If you make them unhappy at this time, it's not good. In fact, whether it's Qianguyue or their previous 3 sects, everyone knows in their hearts that the so-called unity of Qi and branches is a joint effort to fight against the threat of the martial soul hall. If it's really time for a deadly battle, there may not be anyone to help you. Everyone is also taking chances in their hearts. The martial soul hall is only here to ask for some compensation and will not really take action. After all, this kind of impact is too great. Even the martial soul hall doesn't want to see this news. Not long after the arrival of the 7 Treasures Glass sect, Haotianzong from the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family came alone. After all, their family only has him as a powerful Douluo, but there are quite a few soul Douluo. At this moment, the leaders of the 3 major sects on the mainland also gathered together. After the 3 of them met and sat down, there was a wave of commercial hype. On the other hand, the teleportation array of the martial soul hall is also displayed 10 miles away from Haotian sect. Soon, the people of Haotian sect also noticed this situation. While reporting to the sect hall, I kept a close eye on the team in the martial soul hall. After receiving the notice from the disciples of the sect, the 3 people who were still boasting about business, take a look at me and I will take a look at you. Obviously, they didn't expect the martial soul hall to come so quickly this time. It's only a few days since Qianxuan passed away. How was the action of the martial soul hall decisive? However, by this time, the martial soul hall had already arrived. So he, the leader of the Haotian sect, must go and greet him no matter what. 2 of you, go take a look. Tang Zhen stood up and said to Ning Fengji and Haotianzong. Don't hesitate to go, Tang Zongju. If you need any help, just let me know. Haotianzong, dressed in blue clothing embroidered with a blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, laughed out loud. Master Yu is right, so Ning and Master Yu are waiting here, said Ning Feng with a smile on the side. Okay, both of you, Tang will go back as soon as he goes, Tang Jin smiled. Then turn around and go out. As he left the hall, Tang Jin gave a glance to Tang Xiao beside him. Tang Xiao also understood Tang Jin's meaning. Tang Xiao bowed deeply to Tang Jin, and then quickly left without attracting everyone's attention. Even if someone knew that Tang Xiao had left, they just thought he was going to complete the mission of the sect leader. Then Tang Jin took a deep breath and headed towards the army of the Martial Soul Hall. He didn't expect the Martial Soul Hall to come so quickly. In his heart, he felt that even if the Martial Soul Hall came quickly, it would still be a few days later. Arriving at the sect gate, I looked at the people from the Martial Soul Hall in front of me. At first glance, everyone had a strong aura, and at least no one was below the Soul King. There are two others standing in front with the same aura as oneself, which seem to be the offerings of the Martial Soul Hall. In addition, there are 5 titled Douluo standing in front. What Tang Jin couldn't understand was that in front of these people was a young man with silver hair, who seemed to be the main person in charge of this event. Not bad, it's the Martial Soul Hall. No wonder it has been so long since we were able to hold on to the top power in the world. End of this chapter.